Man, welcome, welcome to the welcome to the Nerd Pow Wow. Follow us on YouTube where we upload new videos every Friday, or check us out on your favorite podcast platform. Spoiler warning: we do deep dives on characters, storylines, and theory crafting. With that said, Mariah Bain, what are we talking about today?
So going along with everything happening with Marvel Rivals, I thought it was a good time to talk about Adam Warlock. Outside of his appearance in the MCU, I don't know that a lot of people have a lot of knowledge of him and who he is. He's been around for a long time. He came out in the 60s, the first appearance in Fantastic Four, and he's just a really robust character with a lot of really cool history. So I thought we would take a look at him.
Awesome. It starts with him, right?
Yeah, it starts with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was his original name. He was just him, as he was created in a lab, the Enclave, in they were designed. They wanted to make a super race to kind of overthrow the planet. And while he gained sentience before they were ready, and decided that they were evil. So he came about, he destroys them, and then he decided the Earth wasn't ready for him and took off. And that's kind of how he started. That was his little thing. He was aware upon birth, unlike the character in the movie where they kind of made him a moron, which really hate that they did that.
He came out of his egg too early.
That's right. Yeah,
he was soft.
That's a James Gunn, Taika Waititi thing. That's just their favorite heroes. They just want to keep dumbing them down. They think it's funny to have a bunch of moron superheroes running around. I don't necessarily agree.
I mean, it is funny, but I can definitely see it getting a little grating for some fans, unfortunately. And with the character as serious as I find Adam Warlock to be, like it's really a departure from his envision from the comics. You know?
He was never childlike. No. And that, so to make him this childlike thing it did great on me a little bit.
So I like in the beginning when they were talking about that they actually kidnapped Alicia Masters, the Thing's girlfriend, because Warlock, or him, was so bright at the time they couldn't see what he looked like. So they had to bring her in to feel him, to sculpt him, so they could figure out what he even looked like.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I thought that was a cool touch, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, going into his origins, the first thing I thought about was Rocky Horror Picture Show. Down to Adam Warlock's look, it is... I was blown away. And so I looked it up. The writers and the directors of Rocky Horror Picture Show, they took Adam Warlock as inspiration for the experiment that Dr. Frankenfurter does.
That's hilarious. I never put those two together, but visually,
it's
hilarious.
Perfect. It's perfect. It
is perfect. Wow.
But hey, there's a lot of inspirations when it comes to Adam Warlock. He's definitely a deeper character than I expected him to be. Because my first interaction with him was the MCU.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew very little about him. I guess what are some of the biggest? Are there any big departures to power between the MCU and Adam Warlock?
Significantly. So he in the MCU, it's pretty. A lot of it was just he was kind of built that way. But in the original, he gets power. He gets more power for every time he cocoons. So if you kill him, he cocoons. His power grows. He's had the Soul Stone, one of the
Infinity Stones.
The Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Well, so he had that. He possessed the karmic staff. He's possessed all kinds of just amazing weapons. He even had there's an orb he had for a while too, a cosmic orb, because his powers are power cosmic. I mean, which is not talked a lot about in the MCU, but the power cosmic and cosmic powers is a power set, almost like a elemental power set would be. There's you have fire guys and ice guys and everything else, and the power cosmic falls into that in the Marvel.
You deal with that with Galactus
universe.
and Silver Surfer too, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. Silver Surfer, all power cosmic. So he's tapping into that same kind of thing. What makes him kind of cool is, and sets him apart, is he ends up having these accessories that greatly improve his powers. He's even wielded the Infinity Gauntlet, but he's also a mystical. He has an entire array of magic. He gets into the whole mystical range. He's with Doctor Strange, everybody else. So he's really touches on all corners of the power sets inside of the Marvel domain, which is part of what I really like about him. He's really rounded. So
yeah. So did they get after the him story arc? Did they get into Magus, or did they go into the Infinity Gauntlet saga?
Well, at first, it was before there was Infinity and Thanos. They got into the entire High Evolutionary. High Evolutionary made an other Earth. It was on the other side of the sun, and he made it all peaceful. It was supposed to be like a utopia. But was it Man Beast? I believe his name was. Yeah. It was one of the creations, High Evolutionary's creations. He introduced evil to the planet, and High Evolutionary was like, "Well, that experiment's fouled. I'm just going to purge the planet." He was ready to just purge it, get rid of everything, start over. High Evolutionary's he's awful, but Adam was like, had already been there. He's like, no, I think I can save this entire thing, and that's where he first started becoming like known as like a Messiah type character, because he went to Other Earth and became basically like a Messiah. He fought back and forth with Man Beast. Man Beast killed him a couple times. They went back and forth, and he cocooning and coming back better. So there was a whole dynamic long before Infinity Stones and Thanos and all of that. There was the High Evolutionary parts.
The High Evolutionary part. It really you can tell that the author of that specific line was at least in some way Christian, because there are a lot of parallels between Adam Warlock and Jesus, like a ton.
Yeah.
So you start like even going back from what you're talking about. Talking about he was. I guess he was introduced his name from him to Adam in this comic book stories, which Adam is a very biblical name. And then you think about this war and destruction being brought on alternate Earth. That just kind of feels a little bit like the apple, right?
And he was crucified on that
Warlock
planet.
He literally
they literally crucified him. They literally crucified him. Call him Adam. I mean, in the High Evolutionary, the Infinity Stones weren't what they were then. They didn't have this. No, they didn't have the idea of putting them together and creating the Infinity Gauntlet. That came later. But he did have the Soul Stone, because High Evolutionary gave him the Soul Stone. But but it's just like the reincarnation, the crucifixion, the Soul Stone. I mean, it was very biblical. There's no two ways about it. They were playing with biblical themes there. And death and resurrections, etc. And so it was just that was definitely the vibe they were going for. He was saving a whole other planet.
Yeah, he did seem to go in a cocoon quite a bit, and he went to sleep a lot. So that was
a sleepy man.
He was a sleepy man.
He needs his 3 days in the tomb before he comes back out.
And the one thing I liked about Counter Earth, there were no superheroes, no supervillains.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yep. Yeah, the High Evolutionary had several things like that, because he also founded Wundagore, which is a mountain region where he had hybrid animal people and that type of thing. He was trying to evolve and make utopias constantly, but he always fouled it because he himself was corrupt.
He's a very flawed man.
Yeah, he's very flawed, and that caused a lot of it. But it was, and that's something that they did right in the movie. I thought, even though the high evolutionary character in the movies was different, that his idealism and the corruption and stuff like that, and how he kind of just discarded things that didn't work out because, like, he didn't pay attention to that they were like living, breathing, sentient things that didn't matter. They were experiments.
Yeah,
and that really translated well, even though they were. Sometimes I like when they depart from the comics, but they still capture the essence of what came out of the comic. It makes it sit really well with me because I don't want to keep reading or rehashing the same information constantly. I don't want the origin of Spider-Man 1700 for the next 200 years. So I don't mind that they depart from it, but I like when they keep the essence of it. It makes it better to me.
Yeah, modernizing comics I think is a decent thing. Like, just bring things a little bit closer to the time so it's more relatable to people, so these stories can keep being told. It makes a couple little changes here and there, but ultimately I think it's all a good thing. And man, Adam Warlock has seen a couple different writing styles, and
goodness, yes.
that he has. It's because I'm not going to remember his name offhand, but there was a writer for the Captain Marvel series, Marvel. Jim Starlin, I think it was.
Starlin, yeah.
And he got booted from Captain Marvel. They had a big creative difference and stuff like that. So he was away from Marvel for a while. And they brought him back, and they asked him, who he wanted to do. And he took the Fantastic Four and Warlock. So when he took them, that's when it started going. Things started changing up a little bit too.
Yeah.
So he's had a lot of significant writers, but.
Well, where his last writer had kind of those Christian themes within his comic books. Boy, that took a change with Starling, because it went in a whole other direction. And from what I've heard of Starling, he's always been kind of into like the psychedelics, and some of that shows through his writing, and very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's also the period. We're talking 70s here, so he was keeping in the theme of his audience. It really worked out well. I'm not sure. I'm gonna mess up what time Starlin was doing things, but there was one of his writers, even like they made him so powerful early on that he could withstand full blows from Mjolnir. Like Thor could throw and hit him with the hammer, and he's just taking it. Now Thor ended up winning the fight, and of course he takes his nap in the cocoon to make himself better. But he was powerful back then, and he's only gotten greater and greater his power. He goes toe to toe with Thanos frequently.
Well, him wanted to mate with Thor's girlfriend at the time, so Thor had a little extra motivation.
Yep, and that kind of takes you more into his story too. And I don't know if it was Starlin, or I don't keep up with the authors as much as I should, or the writers, but because that went into they started going into the thing too of the Magus, and the Magus was an evil version of Warlock, and he encountered him, a future version of him, and so then Warlock's entire drive becomes not letting himself become the Magus. Because the Magus Magus actually finds the Universal Church of Truth. Going back to the whole his original origin, he finds this cult-like, conquest-based, purist kind of church,
kind of a satire on religion in a way, like
and Magus was, but Magus is also extremely powerful. It ended up being he has the potential to be a Thanos level character, like the way we think of Thanos now because of the MCU. Magus is on that level.
Now, was this the comic line where they got into, like, where Starling was kind of like poking fun at the Marvel writing staff and like Stan Lee, and like I remember hearing that there were a bunch of like panels where there would almost be caricatures of these people within the Adam Warlock storylines.
Really, I'm not overly familiar with that, but I'm not surprised because Jim Starlin I know that he had his he was an outspoken kind of person when it comes to a lot of stuff, and he definitely had his own style, but he was very well loved by by comic book enthusiasts. Yeah. So so it was kind of hard to get rid of him too.
Yeah, what can Marvel do?
He had his People moments. Love him. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's responsible for quite a lot of things. So, trying to remember because I know he did Warlock, but he did Fantastic Four. He also did Dreadstar, which is kind of cool. Well, we'll go down the Dreadstar rabbit hole another time, but that was one of my favorites. So he's done a lot of things that I really enjoyed.
Nice.
What
was the series of Warlock where they actually had a disclaimer at one of the end of the comics? It just stopped. Sorry, this is it. No more Warlock. I read that
he disappeared for a while after that.
One of the comics had like a disclaimer on the last page saying that would be the last issue.
That was that the one where he died and Pip and Gamora had died as well, and he was going off to live with them in the Dead Realm.
Yeah, I'm not positive.
I'm not either. I do remember that, but
yeah, so it's like a little yellow section of the back page.
Yeah, something that I've noticed with Adam Warlock is sometimes he just pieces out. Like he
really does.
Like, no, all right, I'm good. See you guys.
Yep.
Hey,
he was gone for a couple.
Here are the Infinity Stones. All right, I got to go find myself. See ya.
He was gone for a couple of years, and all of a sudden he comes back.
Yeah, it did seem like they started pulling him out of the. They like pulled him out and dusted him off anytime anything Infinity was going on there for a while.
Yeah,
it's like he was nowhere.
Man, the Infinity War saga and the MCU is kind of at a disservice by not having Adam Warlock in it. He was a huge player in that.
Yeah.
He was the player in that. I mean, he was. It was. I feel like there were some characters that they really needed to have involved in that they didn't. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I have no complaints about it, but in a perfect world, Warlock absolutely would have been a factor there. Lady Death. The fact that they just kind of, I mean, they made Thanos' fascination with death not a fascination with or love of death, not a love of death, but a need for like a restart or a reboot of life so that it could have it, do better next time. But it kind of echoed it, but then not having that incarnation of death, that was almost like a weakness of Thanos in the comics. He had this passion for, and she was dispassionate to him. She did not have an affectation for him. So he was always just trying to win her approval and just feeding her death. And it made him more maniacal rather than tyrannical, which there's a pretty good distinction between those two to me. So as much as I loved the MCU, Infinity, that entire chain, I really did love it. It departed heavily.
Yeah.
From even some of the things there. Like I said, though, I mean, I don't mind it because I never mind. I don't want to see somebody just take a comic book that I read and make it a movie. That's boring to me. I've already lived that comic. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see it verbatim go through there. I just want to feel the same energy. And when it's new, it's different. So I feel like comic books, the comic book failure movies that the predecessors to the MCU, that's a lot of what they did. They were campy, and they were just like almost verbatim what was going on in the comics.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just felt like there was no surprise. There was nothing different. People who read comics are imaginative people. We don't need a live action version, or a live action version isn't that far of a doesn't depart that far from what we lived when we read the comic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a good take.
So but yeah, I don't know. And Warlock's been around for a long time. He even has a female counterpart. I don't know if you guys know about her.
Her.
She's she's Aisha now, I believe is her name. She's gone through a couple different names.
Yeah.
But she's a female version of him. She was originally supposed to mate with him to have an offspring that was even better, but he rejects her. And then she falls in love with Quasar, and she's chasing poor Wendell Vaughn all over the place. And she actually impregnates him. She puts a cocoon on his neck, and she had done this to all kinds of heroes. I think.
Yeah. There was 5 or 6 different heroes she did it to.
Wow.
Yeah, in all of them, all of the heroes destroyed it, except for Wendell. He was kind of like, well, I'm not killing it. It's like, it's like he felt bad that he didn't want to kill it. So he was letting it gestate on him.
Or cocoons.
Can you imagine just but the tapeworm, it's living off of my nutrients.
I shouldn't have named him.
I shouldn't have named that growth on my neck.
Now I feel bad. But yeah, but he said that, and then he has we touched on Magus. Magus is the incarnation of his evil side.
Yeah.
And now they have a character named Goddess. She's more recent, much more recent, and she is an incarnation of his purely good side. But she's a problem too because she wants to eradicate and purify. She wants to go through and eradicate all kinds of evil. I mean, to a very small degree. What she thinks is evil is way down here versus what is actually evil.
Yeah.
So she's an actual villain, not even though she's based on his good side. So even the incarnations of his good and evil are a problem inside of the universe there.
Could Magus ever show up again?
Yes, multiple times.
Okay.
So they have it. So he kind of, the universe that they stuck Magus in, that is called the Cancerverse, and in that Cancerverse, they've killed Death. Death doesn't exist there, and it's actually one of the leaders there is actually the Captain Marvel of that universe who didn't die of cancer because there's no death there. He made deals with that, so he kind of rules over there with them. So it's almost there's a dark version of a lot of different heroes inside that universe. Okay. And that's where there was a dark Fantastic Four. There's all kinds of dark versions. There was dark Doctor Strange. There's all kinds of them in the comics. So the Cancerverse was almost mirror universe to give a Star Trek reference. It was almost mirror universe in a way. It had the thing, but there was no death. So it was kind of a crazy thing. That universe pops up every so often.
I think of these questions, and I always forget. We're dealing with Marvel. There's a multiverse. Anything's possible. Everything's
it sure
possible.
is.
Right?
And all of it's happening at the same time.
And I'm not I haven't followed it because it's much more recent. But there was a kid Magus running around. Like a child Magus. I don't even know where the hell he came from. Yeah. It was just a little kid Magus. I gotta look up and do a little research to see where the hell he came from because I don't know the lore or whatever behind him. So, we'll see. One thing I always liked about him though is Pip the Troll.
Yeah.
He hung out with he's this great character, and they introduced him at the end of the Eternals movie. I don't know if you guys watched the Eternals, the MCU movie, but after credits.
I didn't even notice. I didn't even know.
Yeah, in the after credits, they introduced 2 more Eternals. And they kind of introduced Eternals, comic book style Eternals, rather than these Eternals that worked for the what do you call it? The Celestials.
Yeah.
But they introduced Star Fox and Pip the Troll, which they're fantastic characters, and they can do a lot with them. And I'm really hoping at least Pip it shows up because Pip is just a great character. He's this little cigar smoking troll. He's kind of an ass,
He knows what he wants in life. He's just going to steer.
He does what he wants. It's cool. And Star Fox is actually, so you know how all the Eternals, they have their names are Greek counterparts of gods. People named them like Athena, everything else. And the Star Fox is actually Eros. So he is the Greek god of love. He's Cupid. That's who Eros is, basically. Okay. So he has the ability to manipulate emotions. He's an empath and a broadcasting empath. He can kind of control him. And they always kind of made him schmarmy. And then, in the movie they cast one. It's one of the the guy who was acting him in the movie is one of the what's the British boy band that is real popular?
Wrong podcast for that.
One Direction.
Okay, all right.
It was one of the kids from One Direction, which I thought was a great casting, honestly. I don't remember which one it was, Niall or I don't know. But,
you're like, I don't know. It definitely wasn't Niles because it was this guy or was that guy or.
Yeah, I have no idea. But it was one. It was one of them. But that was a good casting because Star Fox always kind of had that like. Almost like schmarmy, kind of swagger, but kind of like a little icky also, just a little bit, just a little over the top. So it's a really interesting to put those two, especially with the Eternals, because the way they did it in the MCU, the Eternals were so like straight laced.
Yeah.
They were so like, like militant almost in everything they did. So I'm hoping that even though the Eternal movie did not do very well, I'm really hoping that they still have those characters around because that'll be fun. Yeah. It'll be really fun.
Fingers crossed.
And hopefully by then Warlock's smart.
Marvel. I mean, we have Marvel rivals. That's what we have to look forward to right now.
Yep.
I'm adding some new characters soon.
Yes.
Yep. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm an eternal optimist. I can't help it, especially when it comes to nerdy stuff. I'm always hoping for the best, trying to put good energy behind what I want to see.
Yeah.
There's too many. The online world when it comes to this kind of stuff gets so toxic so fast. Yeah. And I just feel like that it's gross to me. I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I want to be part of people that are young. Yeah, it's comic books, man. This is supposed to be good stuff. It's supposed to be fantasizing and, having this wonderful departure from reality, and that's what I'm looking for. So I stay optimistic about it. Captain America's coming up, and I like that we're going to see some Red Hulk. I think it's going to be great. I'm excited for it.
True. I am looking forward to Thunderbolts.
Yeah, Thunderbolts looks great too.
Yeah,
I am shocked that they're introducing Sentry. I will tell you that I am shocked that they're introducing Sentry because Sentry is such an OP character. And they literally had to give him an alternate persona that isn't powered so that they could revert him in ways. That's what Bob is. Bob doesn't really know that he's Sentry. Well, I mean, in the comics, where they're kind of two different personalities.
Sentry was on, just kind of a side note here, but in X-Men 97, Sentry was witness to the massacre in Genosha. He was there.
Yep.
Why didn't he do anything?
Stand idly by.
I mean,
just allow this to happen.
Because he's straight up a Superman.
Yeah.
Clone. I mean, he's what he is. He's just like flying, super strong eye beams. He's got the whole kit, the whole Superman kit. It's just who he is, and I don't know. I don't like when they introduce a character that is just, you need everybody to come. It isn't so bad when it's a Thanos. It's like this huge character that you need to address, but then you bring a hero in that has that kind of power level. It's like, well, what do you need everybody else for? It removes the balance equation in the whole dynamic. Like, well, just throw Sentry at them. They did it. They've done it a couple times with the Hulk. Like, why isn't every solution just throw the Hulk at him? Can't kill him. Keeps getting stronger. Just like everybody else is kicking back, drinking beer, and just let the Hulk go do his thing. He enjoys that more anyway.
Hulk's having a good time. The heroes are having a good time.
He might be busy.
New York City's having an awful time.
Awful time. Throw Xavier on his shoulder like they formed Master Blaster from Mad Max. So he gives him a psychic shield so nobody can get in and mess with him psychically. And then what's his weakness?
Oh, that's
what are you going to do for him?
That's the team up I'm looking forward to in Rivals. Okay, we get Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk, turns into World War Hulk, and then just lifts Charles up, throws him on his back, and just puts a little harness on him. And he's just Xavier's over here touching his forehead, however he's going to work in the game, and the Hulk is just ripping people apart. Oh, it's going to be great.
Yep. Can't do anything, and there's no helmet for somebody to take off and like Juggernaut or Magneto. No helmet,
right?
Yeah,
you don't, and you don't even have to need to necessarily know. Yeah, like you don't even have to necessarily know where Xavier is. Xavier could be over there hiding in a corner and mentally shielding the Hulk. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're not going to stop him.
We've all
you
played
need
with
an
that
Infinity level character.
Rivals, the Xavier that just stands in a corner doing nothing.
That would be me.
Oh, wait. Wayne, we got to get you on board with Wolverine and just going in there, Berserker Barrage. Just get him.
Yeah. Now I need to have Gambit introduced to that game. Now we're talking.
He's coming. Yeah. Wayne found his main.
Yeah, they've been data mining all kinds of names out of there. I can't. I'm excited. I'm excited for. I have not found a tank that fits me yet. I heal. I actually play Warlock in the game. He's my main in Rival, so I really enjoy playing Warlock. I've got a couple DPS that I like. I mean, DPS is simple. Everybody wants to play DPS, but I prefer support roles.
Yeah.
And I just can't link up to. Just not vibing with any of the tanks. I mean, I do okay. I can do an okay Groot. I can do an okay Doctor Strange, but it just doesn't vibe. So I'm really hoping that the Thing comes along and has a thing. I actually play the Hulk. I do the Hulk pretty well, but the Hulk is hard. He's a dive tank, so you're separating from your people to go in and do damage and then coming back.
Yeah.
So he's not a protector tank. And I want something that has a little bit of. I was kind of hoping that they made. Believe it or not, I was kind of hoping that they made Invisible Woman a tank. She's literally shields.
Yeah,
it's what she does. Is shields. And she does that in her healing ways now. But I would love to have seen her bringing up shield walls and bubbling people and using her as a tank. Imagine an invisible tank. Imagine walking in with a tank that's invisible and lays down walls in front of an entire team that didn't know she was there.
How
fantastic!
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it'd be such.
No, not at all.
I would love every minute of it. I would love every minute of it.
Oh my god!
You're just standing there defending the point. Suddenly, half the point is blocked off from you, and it's occupied by the other forces. It would be beautiful.
Yeah, the tank I've gotten used to is Venom. Venom's really fun to play. I like him.
Yeah.
You can pop a shield up and then just kind of get back to your healers, get healed up, and then go back in and just start messing them up.
Yeah, he's similar to the Hulk in that what I've just kind of dubbed them a dive tanks.
Yeah,
they jump in. It's hard to kill them, so everybody has to focus on them. So their tank role is actually because they're so hard to kill, and they have an escape route every time, either the leap or the web.
Yeah.
That it takes a lot of the other team to try to focus them down.
Yeah.
So that's how they're tanking, is by they're aggroing almost because they're such a problem.
Yeah. If you're a good healer, you can tank pretty well with Venom and not have to dive much, but you got to have a good healer.
And yeah, because like in Warlock as a healer, I really like Warlock as a healer, but Warlock is great for healing bombs. I mean, I think he's the largest. He drops the largest heals.
Okay.
But it's such a time. There's such a time. It takes a lot. It's a cooldown is a lot. So I'm like waiting. So I need a rapid healer to keep somebody alive while I'm bringing up them to full. So if you have a tank like that and they're getting focused down, I can throw big chunks, but I have to wait a second, so I need somebody like keeping them alive just a little bit, and then I can fill them back up.
Burst heal in a way.
Yeah, and I do that too by sharing it. The soul bond, I believe it's called, where we share damage, so I can kind of disperse the damage that they're having. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a tank though that I can stand and defend the team. I don't have to be. I don't mind the Reinhardt type thing, but I want it to be. I don't want it to be another shield because the healers can't heal my shield. I want it to be me that's doing it. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, sounds good. So what came first, the Adam or the egg?
The him.
The him. The him or the egg. That's perfect.
There was one part of the Herd history that there were 3 Enclave members that were hit by a cosmic beam from the Crucible. And they had cosmic powers for a short bit, but they only could they had to stay within 10 meters of each other. So they love this power, but they get sick or there would be a pull to bring them right back. And then they lost their powers, and no one believed they actually had them.
Right.
So and then didn't they? So the beehive was destroyed, but they created another beehive, correct?
Yeah, they keep having different incarnations of it. They got involved with AIM for a little while. Project Pegasus. Project Pegasus has its hands in every. If you ever want to look up something fun, look up Project Pegasus and be prepared for an amazing amount of reading because it's got its hands and tendrils and so many different things that are surprising inside the Marvel universe there. But so yeah, they've had different incarnations. They've been related. They've been kind of good a couple times, but most of the time they're rather ominous, looking for power, looking for to create something that gives them power rather than something that benefits everybody. So, because there was even, I don't know if you guys heard what is the Future Foundation. Do you know what the Future Foundation is?
No.
The Future Foundation was something that was created. Reed Richards. It's all geniuses. Reed Richards, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, all these people, and it was still FF. So like it was Fantastic Four, but it was the Future Foundation. I'm wondering if they had any kind of thing to do with that because they should have if they didn't, because the Beehive would have been a good, anti or yin to the yang kind of thing for them. I'm kind of curious. I didn't follow a lot of the Future Foundation. I'm a fan of the costumes because they all wore these black and white costumes. There was an all-white Spider-Man with the black spider, and they're like really cool. The Future Foundation had really cool, a cool look to it, but I didn't read a lot of it. I started reading some of it. It was a little flat. Okay, it was like they're really appealing. They were appealing more to the science end of the nerd gamut. Yeah. And I enjoy that, but the technical end of it, I'm a little more fantastical. I want a little bit more, high energy, high action kind of thing. Whereas when you start getting into that nitty gritty stuff, it starts to slow down and doesn't keep my attention as well. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. Like I said, the whole Warlock thing. There's a lot there.
What are I'm not sure that we went down a list, but I know he does have a few. Adam Warlock does have a few powers. One of them is from the Soul Stone. He gets omnipotence, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean the Soul Stone can keep him. It really depends on how you kind of define omnipotence, but he is godlike in a lot of ways. But later after so many incarnations, he doesn't even need the Soul Stone anymore. He actually forgoes it for a while. When the Infinity stuff's going on, they're in the Gauntlet. He can't even have the Soul Stone. He's using the Karmic Staff a lot during that time too, but so his abilities, it's just they kind of lump it under that cosmic power, which is so ambiguous. It isn't really well defined, and it's like they want to give somebody a cool power, and they're like, oh yeah, it's part of the power cosmic. And they kind of like lump it in there. So like he's his powers, a lot of his powers derive from that. and his relationship with the Soul Stone too is symbiotic too. Like he doesn't just use the thing; he's bonded with it, so, and it's become like part of him.
Yeah.
So even when he's separated from the Soul Stone, he can feel it. He can almost feel its pull.
Yeah, it's almost like a
part of
him
him
in a way.
So at one point, he was dead in a grave, and her resurrected his body, but his soul was still in the Soul Stone. So she put him back. And then at some point, I believe it was Mr. Fantastic and Silver Surfer were transported or somehow got into the Soul Stone and met with Warlock. And the three of them were able to get out and stop whatever threat was going on at the time.
Yeah,
part of the power cosmic. Apparently, you can just be like,
yeah. That's the stuff instead. I mean, because he's been telepathic. He's got magic. He can see the future sometimes. He has a clairvoyance thing. I mean, they've really he was like the dumping ground. Like, what do we need Adam to do? Okay, give him that power. Yeah. How did he get that power? It's part of the power cosmic.
Well, that just shows why you were so upset with how they portrayed him in MCU.
Yeah.
In the Guardians movie, because he had the Warlock name, but it wasn't Warlock.
He did come out fucking some people up though.
He did, yeah.
Man, when he was fighting the Guardians of the Galaxy, that fight was really cool.
Yeah.
Not knowing the character before and just watching that, it gave me respect for the character. Made me feel like, okay, he's got something to work for, but it really isn't the same character. I think I think Adam Warlock's two weaknesses are one of them just leaving is one of them. The other is I think he has poor emotional control maybe.
He does. And they've played up on that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm having a rough day. I'm going to go lay in the egg for a couple days.
Yeah, I'm going to go float around the universe in my cocoon.
I'm going to take a walk around the world to ease my troubled mind.
Yeah, he has almost it's almost like he has crises all the time. Like he's got not identity crises, but the crises of what he should be doing or how he should be doing it, and if he's good enough to do it. He just seems like if you have a being that was built to be perfect, then he's always going to have a crisis of not being able to attain perfection. So he's going to perpetually live in crisis because he's never going to attain. There's no perfect, and so he's never going to attain at that. So he's aspiring to be an unattainable thing.
Yeah,
so I think that kind of leads into it.
You can see when he's feeling good, he kind of borders on having hubris and just being way too much, right? But then anything goes a certain way. I mean, I can only imagine what being omnipotent would be like, truly. And then you have this character that's told you're the perfect being. Those are some big shoes to get into.
Yeah, and because they've done things with, because he has power of creating and manipulating timelines now. Because of the whole Cancerverse and different things that they call it chronokinesis, which.
Chronokinesis.
Okay, it's kind of funny to me, but I mean, once again, now he's got this ability to, utilize quantum magic and chronokinesis to manipulate timelines and futures and all this other stuff. So there's not a lot he can't do. So you kind of have to make him fallible in a way. You kind of have to make him. It goes back to the Sentry thing. You almost have to give him this personality where he's. They've done that a few times in the Marvel. Do you know who the Gladiator is? He's part of the Shi'ar elite. They're the protectors of the Shi'ar thrones. So he got the giant mohawk.
Yep.
That guy is invincible. He's 100% invincible. You can't beat him unless you make him doubt himself. Swear to God, that's his weakness. You just have to make him doubt. Make him doubt himself, and he depowers. What the hell? Why would, if you have that, why would you ever doubt yourself? What generates doubt in someone that's invincible? So this is the whole idea.
Yeah.
That's one of those tropes that they have in comic books that kind of kill me. That this like manufactured weakness that makes no sense. It goes way back. It goes back, Superman and Mr. Mxyzptlk. I don't know if you know who Mr. Mxyzptlk is. He's a little jester-like creature from a different dimension. It's just a problem.
Yeah.
And the only way to get rid of him, and to beat him was to force him to say his name backwards. So they're trying to trick him into saying his name backwards.
Yeah.
Like it's the same kind of thing where you had this like manufactured weakness because you didn't create an entity with balance. So you have to like come up with some wild shit that doesn't necessarily make sense.
Yeah.
To have to do that.
Good boy Clark Kent trying to trick anyone.
Yeah, like the best disguise.
That is his greatest weakness, yeah.
So.
Oh man, a problem I can't just punch away? Damn it.
Right. Yeah. So it's like it kind of killed me sometimes, but again, it's comic books, so you have to take it. It happens. You know what I mean? It's part of the nature of what they are. They're supposed to be over the top.
Yeah.
It's when they that's what DC is failing at when it comes to the DC movies, is they're trying to make something that's over the top grounded. They're trying to make it this darker, like grounded, so you can like, what would it really be like? Nobody care. I don't care what it would really be like. I want to know I want to know what it would not be like. I don't want it to be similar. I want it to be not like this.
Yeah, sometimes those dark movies are what the doctor ordered, but man, I'll tell you what, it's not typically why people are going to the movie theater, because they want to watch some dark, brooding Batman. I mean, you can get away with that a couple times, but it's kind of like Deadpool. Like if they made a Deadpool movie every, twice a year, you'd start to get tired of Deadpool.
Sure.
Like just playing the same note over and over again. It's kind of the same note where it's like, yeah, let's just do dark, brooding movies. There were a couple good DC movies came out. The first Shazam movie was really good. I like that one.
Yep.
And even I forget what the actual name of the movie is, but the Suicide Squad movie with Starro in it was really good. The other two Suicide Squad movies, I didn't like them too much, but yeah, that one was really good.
I have some like a lot of the DC movies that I like. It's just it's not creating it's not creating some, like, I like it as like a one-off. It's good, but I don't feel like I can't wait to see what happens next. It is not grabbing me.
Yeah.
It's entertaining me, but it's not grabbing me.
Yeah.
Which is there's a big difference. Because as one-off things, I enjoyed them. I enjoyed that superheroes. Of course, when I enjoy it, I'm gonna find a way to like part of it. It's just how it is. But I want it to be something that I want to live in an elevated, over-the-top fantasy. That's where I want it to be. If I don't want it to be, this grounded, dark, heavy. I don't want it to be that. I have too much of that in my daily life.
Yeah.
I don't. So I'm looking for. I like the idea of it being light,
a little bit,
but not levity, but not when you go too far overboard into the Taika and gun stuff where you start making everybody, we need comedy, so let's just make this person dumb, which is their solution for everything. Like, let's have, Thor's daughter paint Mjolnir so that they can go out and save the aliens. Like,
yeah, but now Mjolnir has a smiley face on it, so.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, it also falls into the you can please some of the people some of the time. You can't please all the people all the time. You're never going to do that.
Yeah, I do think Adam Warlock they'll finish his incubation in the egg in the MCU, and he'll come out a more well-rounded character. And they showed. It was good in some ways because they were able to show some development with the character in the movies. But knowing what I know now about Adam Warlock, I'm like, okay, I can see why people would be upset.
Yeah. Yep. And what I'm hoping is I'm kind of hoping that the Guardians of the Galaxy property post Gunn, they take it in a little bit different direction. I like it light, like I was saying, but less comedic and more moments of levity rather than an entire comedy. Because I would consider I would almost consider the couple of the Guardians almost a comedy. Maybe an action comedy, maybe a little bit of a dramedy, but it's comedy.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see that, because especially if they introduce Nova, I have a passion for Nova, the original Richard Rider. I just think Nova's great. And with everything happening with the Nova Corps in the movies, it wouldn't be hard to do with something wiping out the Nova Corps and having them have to have someone to save them, to bring back the Nova Corps and introduce a Richard Rider. So Nova, Adam Warlock, having that kind of, you put Star-Lord in there, especially if you start giving him his element gun. Star-Lord in the comics has an element gun that is a really interesting weapon, has a lot of really cool elements to it, no pun intended. So if you do a little bit of that type of Guardian, you could really do some cool stuff with that. Especially they were introducing at the end there, when they were originally they were introducing the Reavers or Ravagers, Reavers, and they introduced Starhawk and Martin X and all these other people. They were like these cameos, like Sylvester Stallone was cameoing in Starhawk. Those characters are the original Guardians of the Galaxy. The original Guardians of the Galaxy were genetically developed people for each planet in the solar system. So you had Martin X, was like a crystalline guy designed to survive on Pluto. You had Charlie 27, was a super muscular guy who could withstand the gravity of Jupiter. You had all these different characters, and they made a cameo. They were introduced in the MCU. So I would love to see, that kind of thing come about, because there's a lot out there to do that with. And if they're going to bring the X-Men, you could involve the Shi'ar. You could have a whole galactic MCU that doesn't have to come to Earth. You could have characters go out to them rather than them coming to Earth. So far, that's kind of how it's been, is outside of the Guardians. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's my knowledge on Warlock for the for the most part now.
Him and her.
Yeah, and the goddess and
Magus.
Aisha looks different. Have you seen Magus? Have you seen Aisha yet? So when she was her, she looked just like Adam. She was just like this perfect gold blonde. Now she's got like these like tendril, almost dreadlock looking things that come off of her head. She looks significantly different. She's really departed from him. But
yeah. I guess so. Magus ruled 1,000 worlds with an iron fist.
Yep,
that's great.
His Church of the Universal Truth was a real thing.
Wow.
They were big in comics before comics became so mainstream. Like, they were a big deal. So yeah, we'll see. I'd like to see where it goes.
All right, gents. Well, I think that's. Do we have anything else we want to talk about before we end the episode?
I think we covered Warlock pretty good. I think we'll end up. We can always start something new, because we'll just go another hour. You know us. So
we could go forever.
Yep.
So I think that's a good kind of stopping point, and we'll see how it develops in the MCU. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm just rooting for a smart Warlock. That's what I'm there for.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
All right, nerds. Well, that is the Nerd Pow Wow signing out. I'm John.
Have a good night.
Dark Wayne.
Morai Bane.
Or also Seraph, I guess. I need to get that one right, but
That's right. Multiple personalities. It's okay.
A lot of us, it's our alter ego. It's our alter identity.
Yeah, there we go. See you guys.
Well, step aside and watch how my adoring fans flock to me.